Keep shooting, keep praying. Don't drop the soap.
Bringing you law, gospel, and guns. This is Armed Lutheran Radio.
Hi, folks. Welcome to the final episode of 2021, at least the final new one. I'm your host, Lloyd Bailey. This is Armed Lutheran Radio, and this is episode number 293. Joining us again this week for the final time in 2021, it is our good friend, Pastor John Bennett. Pastor, welcome back.
Thank you, Lloyd. Thank you. It's good to be back. Although tomorrow morning I'm going to be having to fire up the old snowblower because I think we got about a foot of snow out there.
And it looks like so far, hopefully this is not premature. We've survived 2021. Didn't think we'd survive 2020. So it's exciting that we're making it through another year.
Yes. Although if Jesus came back on Christmas Eve, he came back the first time on Christmas Day, but if he comes back on Christmas Day so that we couldn't finish out the year, I'd be totally cool with that.
Yes, that would work for me. I think a lot of people have been saying, Jesus, come on back, ever since all this craziness with the pandemic started.
Yeah. I bet that devout Catholic Joe Biden is really praying for that before they enact the 25th Amendment.
Devout. Yes. What does it say? What did he say that when he met with the Pope, that the Pope was cool with his support for abortion or something?
I don't remember. I'm just wondering if you took the time to sniff the Pope's hair.
Well, he did take the time to mess up the Vatican bathroom, apparently. So.
Maybe,
okay.
Just maybe, he dropped a load because he was terrified of the fact that he is a terrible human being and not a devout Catholic in the presence of the Pope himself. So
that's very true. Although I'm not so sure how Catholic the Pope is. When you get right down to it.
He still stands firm on things like abortion and same-sex marriage, but
only barely.
Yeah, give him time. I'm sure his opinions will evolve.
Yes. Probably so. All right, before we get started with whatever it is we're doing here today, I want to give a final shout out for the year to the wonderful people who've made this year possible. The members of the Reformation Gun Club. Today, final shout outs to Kevin from Marion, Iowa, Melvin from Holt, Missouri, Richard from Pagosa Springs, Colorado, Robert from Monroe, Georgia, David from Milford, Connecticut, and Steve from Grovetown, Georgia. Thank you all so much for your support, especially during as we endure Bidenomics. We really do appreciate it. Folks, Armed Lutheran Radio is listener funded, and that means that we rely on the good folks who are members of the Reformation Gun Club, their monthly and yearly contributions to help keep the lights on. We have no sponsors, no advertisers. And these good people help keep us going. And if you would like to join them, if you'd like to find out more about it, for as little as $1 a month, you can get access to all kinds of exclusive content and invitations to our monthly online hangouts. The last of 2021 happened just this weekend. And the satisfaction of knowing that you helped make all this possible. So check it out at armedlutheran.us/gun club. Or look for a link in the show notes for this or any of our previous episodes. All right, it's the final Clinging to God and Guns episode of 2021. It's the final episode of 2021. Today is, I guess, kind of it's almost a show about nothing. It's sort of a Seinfeld episode. no real plan. We're just catching up on and closing out 2021. Thoughts on 2021 and hopes and dreams for 2022?
Well, thoughts on
aside from Jesus coming back.
Yes, aside from Jesus coming back. I mean, we know he's going to come back because he is true God, and he has demonstrated time and time again that, well, he speaks truthfully when he makes promises. So, I mean, this is the man who, well, the Son of God, true man, who declared that they were going to kill him and he was going to rise again in 3 days. And he proved he was right about that. So, yeah. But 2021, it sucked, I would say, equally as 2020, but maybe worse, but in a different way.
Yeah.
I mean, we've got Biden, so there's definitely the worst part. We've got inflation, massive inflation at a 40-year high. So, I mean, there's another bad part. Trump even managed to keep us from having that kind of, although he contributed to it with the stimulus. They shouldn't have been giving stimulus to anyone who didn't need it.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, 2020, and you're right, 2020 and 2021 sucked for completely different reasons. We went sort of frying pan to the fire, kind of.
Yes. There have been some bright spots, though. You know, I think of the gubernatorial election in Virginia.
Yep.
And even in New Jersey, even though the Republican lost, he lost by such a slim margin. No one ever expected him to do nearly that well.
True.
And yes, so it does bode well for the midterm elections next year. So there's some bright spots.
There are.
We have the conviction of Juicy Smollett. So
right. Well, that's a great segue, because that's kind of the three of the biggest positives to come out this year actually came out of courtrooms. And as much as we've worried, in recent years that the justice system is broken and we don't really have a justice system, it's more of a legal system. But there are three recent high-profile cases that I think give us reason to be kind of optimistic about the future, and that things aren't quite as bad as we might think, and that the narrative that is constantly pushed about how terrible America is might just be false.
Yeah.
And the most recent, of course, is Juicy Smollett, as Ben Shapiro pronounced it recently. Who was it? 2019 when all this started? Has it been that long?
It was 2019 polar vortex. I did a funeral that week, and Jussie decided to beat himself up instead. So
right, well, he decided at 2 a.m. in Chicago, he decided he just had to have a Subway sandwich.
No one in their right mind wants Subway at 2 a.m. I mean, most people don't want it at 2 p.m.
That's right. And certainly not in a polar vortex. So he decides to go out at 2 a.m. to get Subway, and claims that he was attacked by two white guys wearing red hats. We can assume he was alluding to red MAGA hats. And they supposedly tied a noose around his neck, which he was still wearing when police showed up an hour later.
It looked like he was made out of a shoestring.
They supposedly poured bleach on him, and then they roughed him up a bit, and they said they called him the F word for gay and the N word for black, and said this is MAGA country in Chicago, which is about as un-MAGA as you could possibly get.
Yeah.
And somehow in all of that scuffle, he didn't let go of the Subway sandwich. That had to have been one hell of a sandwich.
Or just decides to wear this shoestring made noose around, hey guys, I'm just going to wear this, makes a nice necktie. Yeah. And there just happened to be two white guys out in MAGA country at 2 a.m. in the polar vortex just waiting for him.
Yes, absolutely.
Yes. Yes.
Well, the wonderful news and the optimistic, the positive news is that finally, Jussie Smollett was brought to trial for this hoax and was convicted on all counts.
Yes.
And he's facing 20 years in prison as of this recording.
Yes.
It's phenomenal.
I would say don't drop the soap, but he might enjoy that. Oh gosh, that's terrible. I'm sorry.
That's awful. Well, I'm just happy that they caught the guy who beat him up.
Yes. There has been justice for Jussie.
That's right. Oh my goodness. So for those who don't know, it turns out that he paid, was it like $3,500 to two friends to rough him up?
Yes.
And he wrote a check to them.
Yes. It's like, dude, at least go to Walmart and get like a cashier's check or money order, whatever they call them. And
they can still trace that.
Yeah.
I don't know. This is, he's obviously a terrible actor. Because if you saw any of and I watched a few of them recently of his interviews with the media after this, it was obvious he was lying.
Yes.
And it's amazing to me that so many people on the left bought into the idea that this was true. I'm stunned by that. And except that it feeds the narrative. It fits into the narrative that, America is this horrible racist place because of Trump, and that black people, and particularly black gay people, are not safe.
Yeah. They believed him because they wanted what he said to be true.
Yeah. Yeah. That image of America is what they believe actually exists. And so, yeah, it fit the narrative. And then it's funny how many of those tweets in support of Jussie have disappeared since since the trial. Yeah.
Well, he was an actor and he had the means. I can't afford to write a $3,500 check to a couple guys to beat me up. If I really had to, I might write a $3,500 check to stop someone from beating me up. But, go down to like Alabama or Arkansas or someplace where a story like that would be believable, not freaking downtown Chicago.
Right. And at least hire two white guys, at least make it convincing. Oh, my goodness. Of course, the biggie is the trial of Kyle Rittenhouse, who was, of course, facing first-degree murder charges for the shooting of three looters and rioters during the...
and a pedophile.
Yes, one of whom was a repeat pedophile, yeah. This was following the police shooting of Jacob Blake in Kenosha, Wisconsin. Rittenhouse, of course, as we suggested, he agreed in recent interviews that he probably should not have been there, but once he was there, he had every right to defend himself. We knew from pretty much day one that this was clearly self-defense, but the Kenosha District Attorney's Office decided they were going to press charges and they were going to move forward with just an awful case.
While putting the two dumbest DAs in charge of the prosecution. Good gravy.
The two were just absolutely, it was comical how bad the case was, but we were still there was still, even as bad as the case was going for the prosecution, there was still in the back of your mind this concern that, this is all political. It could still go sideways.
Yeah.
it could still turn out wrong. And thank goodness, at the end of it, he was acquitted on all charges.
Yes. Yeah, it turns out it's still legal to defend your life against those who would take it from you. Yeah.
Yeah, and I surmised in our members only podcasts recently that really the reason that this was pushed as hard as it was, the reason that so many people were invested in the idea that he was guilty, was because he proved that somebody with no training, non-military, non-police person could use an AR-15 in self-defense.
Yeah.
That the fact that he successfully defended himself with the hated AR-15 and didn't injure other people in the process.
Right. That's the amazing part.
Absolutely. It really is.
I mean, the trigger discipline, the fact that he only pulled the trigger when his life was in danger, and that he had 100% accuracy in his shots.
Well, there was drop kick guy that he shot at twice and did not hit him.
Oh, that's right.
The guy, there's that famous picture of the one, and this is the one black guy. See, that's the funny part too. The narrative has been since the trial started that he's a racist, white supremacist, and that this is odd because the whole, the Black Lives Matter angle to the protests, that he was only there to shoot protesters because he's a white supremacist and he opposes BLM.
Right.
And the one guy that he actually didn't manage to shoot was black.
Yes. Yes.
Dropkick guy. But
who, by the way, has a long criminal record as well.
Yes, and probably soiled trousers after that. I would imagine. Because he came so close. But why do you suppose... I mean, I know why, I feel like that the AR-15 is probably a major part of why the media was so invested in this. But why I mean, it doesn't fit the racial narrative, right? Because all three of the people he actually did shoot were white.
Right. It fitted the ideological narrative, though. Right. It's like, was it some BLM nut job or something had said that they changed the narrative that he was a racist because he shot supporters of Black Lives Matter.
Yes.
And so this fits the ideological narrative. They try to use it as evidence for their claim that America is a horribly racist country and that, white people are racists and, yada, yada, yada. To the end of time, that's going to be their argument. And part of it, too, is that they believe that this is what gives them power. And I still am of the firm belief that the 2020 election would have been different if various states hadn't, in violation of their own constitution, changed the laws in those states. I do believe that there was widespread voter fraud in various states. Part of that is because you look at the voting records, and there were districts within Michigan where they had something like 120% voter turnout. Mm-hmm. So, but I think what they have done, what the media has done, is that was their messaging throughout the 2020 election cycle, was that Republicans are racist, Donald Trump is a racist, don't vote for them unless you're a racist. Mm-hmm. And they think that strategy worked, and so they're just doubling down on that. I think that they have made a serious error in what they have perceived as a winning strategy, because it turns out that Americans are getting fed up with that narrative.
Yeah, it's a strange way of trying to garner support by suggesting that the vast majority of the American people are actually deplorably racist, horrible white supremacists.
Right.
It just, I don't know how, and it's funny because that's part of, I think, what sunk Hillary was the whole deplorables
Yes.
thing.
And it's perfect case in point is the Virginia governor's race, where after the fact, media was saying that I can't remember the name of the guy who won the election, but the guy that lost the election as well. I can't think of any of their names right now because I don't live
Youngkin.
Yeah.
Youngkin and the guy who lost was McAuliffe.
That's right, that troll.
Yes.
Anyway, that they were saying that win by Youngkin was due to racism. And yet, there was a huge swing in the voter turnout for Youngkin of Latinos and African Americans. And so if you're a Latino or African American who decided to vote for Youngkin and the media is telling you that you're a racist for voting for Youngkin, I'm guessing that you're going to keep voting for the people who aren't calling you racists.
Probably. Yep.
It's a good
just
bet.
Out of spite, if nothing else.
Right. Right.
The other story that blew up a bunch of narratives was the case of the Cuomo brothers. Andrew, the former governor of New York, who at one point was hailed as the greatest governor in American history, and who was the model for how to deal with the pandemic.
The model for how to kill old people in nursing homes.
That's right. That's right. You what you do is you put all those people in the nursing homes, and then you don't have, it just wipes out the virus, right?
Yeah.
You just keep it in the nursing homes. Yeah. That's, and then you've got, and it's, what's sad about it is that it wasn't his performance as governor in handling the pandemic that did him in. It happened to be his grabassery.
Yes.
Which apparently is fairly legendary, and everyone knew about, apparently, and did nothing about. And then it turns out it's the Me Too movement that finally sinks the guy. And it's ironic because it's always Me Too, it's always believe the woman when the woman is accusing a Republican. And here, I actually thought he was going to get away with this because he's a Democrat. It's typically how that works.
Right.
You don't believe the women when they're accusing people like Joe Biden or Bill Clinton, but you do believe them when they're accusing people like Donald Trump.
Yeah. Although this is my theory on this is that the only reason they went after him for being a little too hands-on with his style of leadership, I guess you would say, is because he had done so horribly in COVID. That if, when it came to COVID, because the numbers are starting to come out that there were actually more deaths than they had originally thought, because it became widespread knowledge that he was putting COVID-positive people from the hospital into nursing homes. Yep. I think because after the fact, they realized that he had done so horribly that they couldn't let it go. If, however, things were just as peachy as CNN pretended they were with Cuomo and New York City, I think they would have swept this under the rug.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think, weren't the documents that actually showed that the numbers were worse than the media had let on, weren't those starting to come out? Hadn't they been somehow leaked?
Yeah, those were leaked. I'm trying to remember. It was either before or after his forced resignation, but it was right around that time that the documentation came out showing that the nursing home deaths had been underreported by some 15,000 or something like that.
Mm-hmm. So they had propped this guy up, and now the proof was coming out that their support wasn't well founded. So let's get rid of this guy and shift. Let's talk about sexual harassment and not about old people dying in nursing homes.
Right.
And then his brother, the craptastically bad
Fredo,
the personality on CNN, who has apparently his own peccadillos when it comes to being handsy with coworkers, apparently was sort of advising his brother Andrew on how to deal with all the accusations against him.
Right. Yeah, he basically strategized with his brother of how to try and make this all go away.
Yeah. Yep. So CNN was finally forced to suspend him. And then what was the final straw when a few days later they decided, oh no, this is worse than we thought, so you're out of here, and they actually canned him.
Yeah, and that was when a woman came forward and said it was like at a
yes.
I forget, it was some sort of a social gathering where he had groped her. And that kind of was the final straw.
So we can't we had one grab ass in the governor's mansion, and now we've got one in our midst. We can't. This is going to look really, really bad for us if we continue to support him. So they just had to cut their ties and let him go. So there is justice in the world, at least in those cases. Of course, CNN's imploding right now. The latest scuttlebutt is that there may be another sexual harassment case coming down the pike when it comes to another member of their prime time lineupe.
Well, there's also Don Lemon that they're talking about now too.
That's who I'm talking about.
Oh, yeah.
Well, yeah, and you say prime, and I said prime time. It's a little hard to say prime time. It suggests that maybe people are watching.
Yeah,
but
maybe prime time at international airports, because I think that's the only people still watching.
Captive audiences in airports. That's true.
You know, this just came to mind. You know, bear with me. Conspiracy theory here, but perhaps there is an agreement between CNN and the bars at airports that by putting CNN on all the screens, it just drives people to drink more.
That's very possible. And that's probably, if they were to lose those contracts and actually not have their programming on in every airport in America, imagine what their viewership would turn out to be. It's bad enough now.
Yeah. They'd be relegated to a YouTube channel, and even then they'd only have about 1,200 subscribers.
Well, I saw something, the Nielsen numbers recently for the primetime news lineups, or the primetime news shows for all the networks, and 14 of the top 15 are at Fox.
Yeah.
That Tucker Carlson's numbers are he has more viewers than CNN and MSNBC combined for all of their shows.
Yeah.
That's just shocking. With no Trump.
Shocking, yes, but is it though?
Yeah, that's true. If it now that there's no Trump to hammer on.
Yeah. I mean, it's like your choices for supper tonight are this beautifully grilled steak, medium rare, unless you like it ruined, versus a half-hour stale hamburger from McDonald's. You know, and I guess some people just like eating McDonald's. Otherwise, anyway. So I don't know if that analogy worked or not, but
it's the end of the year. Who cares? And the other big case that kind of slid under the radar a bit compared to these others was the Ahmed Arbery case.
Oh, yes.
Where we discussed this, I think, in one of our Crime and the 10 Commandments episodes.
We did.
Where Arbory, who was black, for those who don't remember, had been chased or was essentially accused by 3 local residents who confronted him of casing, or what was it, trespassing on a construction
it was a house
site
that was
in the
under
neighborhood.
construction or something like that.
Yeah, so they confronted him and tried to effect a citizen's arrest, which is legal in Georgia, and they did it with firearms drawn, and one of them filming at the same time, which turned out to be their undoing. They chased him. There was a struggle for one of the firearms, and which discharged and killed Arbory. And the 3 men, all white, were charged with murder and found guilty, which goes against the narrative that America is this horribly racist place where white folks get away with killing black people all the time.
Yeah, media didn't report on it because it didn't fit their narrative. Well, I shouldn't say it didn't. Not only did it not fit their narrative, it wasn't helpful to their narrative.
Right. Yeah. It's sort of like, and well, they can always go back to it. I wouldn't put it past them, because even though the white guys got convicted, they can still go back and say, well, yeah, but that's proof that there's all this horrible racism in America because these white guys shot him in the first place. But it's not as good an argument anymore as it was when the thing first happened.
Right. At best, it's proof that there were 3 racist guys.
At the very least, 3 stupid guys.
Very stupid. I mean, yes. It's the fact that they chased him down was their undoing. If they had confronted him as he was coming out of that construction site and things went the way that they did, I could see them possibly getting exonerated. But when they chased him down and made the decision to physically confront him while armed, they screwed themselves. They may as well have shot themselves in the foot, because even though they may not have literally done that, they did that theoretically in their stupid decisions.
Yes. The smarter thing in that case, if he's not going to comply and he's going to run away, which I hate the idea of citizen's arrest. I think it's a terrible idea because you have the potential for this kind of stupidity to happen.
Every time I hear that phrase, citizen's arrest, I think of Gomer Pyle on the Andy Griffith Show. Citizen's arrest, citizen's arrest.
Yep. And so Gomer and his 2 pals, if they had just let him run when he ran instead of chasing him and just called police.
Right.
1, Ahmed Arbory would still be alive. And 2, these 3 knuckleheads would not be going to prison for life.
Right.
So I hate the citizens' arrest laws. I just think it's an invitation for stupid.
Well, and it also, I mean, exactly like this happened in this case, it gives people the idea that, well, I have the power, the authority to do this thing. And it causes people of, I would say, sub-triple digit IQ to think that they're perfectly safe doing really stupid things like confronting criminals.
Yes. Yeah. It's an invitation to stupid. You're just asking for somebody to do something dumb, which in this case resulted in someone dying unnecessarily and 3 people going to prison for the rest of their lives. And while you can say, yeah, well, they deserve to go to prison because they're a bunch of idiot racists, at the same time, you've got, I don't know whether these guys they've all got families. They're now going to have to live with the fact that their family members are morons and that they're in prison forever for doing something stupid because they thought the law gave them that authority.
Right.
And that's what I hate about it. You can still be without the citizen's arrest law, you can still be a responsible citizen and report things that you see, right? Use that video. Take video of the guy coming out of trespassing in the on the construction site. Call police and give them the information.
Right.
You don't have to go out and confront the guy with a gun, because there's not a whole lot of options once you go to that point. Once you've gotten to the point where you're pointing a gun at somebody, there's really only a couple of ways that can go.
Right.
And one of them's really bad.
I mean, or if you're feeling courageous, maybe walk after them following at a safe distance so they don't notice that they're actually being followed, so you can report to police where they are. But
yes.
But if you saw the picture of these guys, it seems like walking without any good reason was something they weren't accustomed to. Sorry.
No. Yeah. Yes.
Sorry.
Well,
yeah.
Yes, taking long, meaningful strolls, not something that it looked like they do very often.
Yes.
And that ties back to the George Zimmerman thing. Remember, he was following Trayvon Martin and had police on the phone, and police said, "We don't need you to do that.
Right.
Go to this location and meet us. We're on our way." And that's what the smartest thing for these goobers to have done would have been: take video or take a picture or whatever, get a good description of the guy, call the police, wait for them to arrive, say, "Here's what he looked like, and he went that way,
right,
and here's what he was doing." And then they'd all be going home and sitting in their lounge chairs at night getting fat, instead of sitting in prison wondering, worrying about dropping the soap.
Yes. Yeah, they'd be at home taking those long, meaningful walks that they're accustomed to between the recliner and the beer fridge.
Yes. Oh, God, that's horrible. It is the end of the year. And the eighth commandment is that the best construction?
I don't know. Well, I mean, here's the best construction. All this talk about soap can make a very good Christmas gift, especially those fancy scented ones. I doubt there's much scented soap in prison.
Oh, gosh. All right. Well, that's going to wrap up our craziness for today. I do have a couple of things that I do want to continue to discuss for just a few more minutes, and we're going to save that for members of the Reformation Gun Club. As is our want, we make extra content available to our members as a thank you, as a benefit for being a member and supporting the show. If you would like to hear the rest of this discussion, check out the Reformation Gun Club at armedlutheran.us/gun club. Pastor, thank you so much for doing this. Happy New Year, Merry Christmas, and thank you for everything that you've done for Armed Lutheran Radio in 2021.
Well, thank you, and a blessed Happy New Year and Christmas to you and your family. And thanks for letting me be a part of this. It's very enjoyable for me to do this, to be able to unwind a little bit, blow off steam, drink a little whiskey while discussing such deep philosophical questions like dropping the soap.
Like scented soap in prisons. That's right.
There's no scented soap where you're going, son.
Oh, boy. Well, thank you all for listening. Thank you for your continued support in 2021. Really do appreciate it. If you have any comments or any questions about this or any other episode, if you object to our jokes about scented prison soap or anything else you've heard in this episode or anything that we've said in the past year, keep it to yourself. Next week is going to be, we got Christmas coming up, so we will have a replay of our Christmas special episodes. That'll be coming up Christmas Eve and Christmas Day. And then probably do a best of show for the first week of 2022, maybe 2 weeks. We'll probably be back the second Sunday of 2022. Take a little time off here, recharge our batteries, and get back at it. Until then, keep shooting, keep praying, We'll talk to you next year.
John Bennett is the pastor at St. John's Lutheran Church in Willow Creek, Minnesota. For more information, visit stjohnswillowcreek.org. For show notes, be sure to visit our website at www.armedlutheran.us. Check out the Facebook page, The Armed Lutheran, or join our Facebook group, Fans of Armed Lutheran Radio. If you like what you hear, please leave us a comment on our feedback page at armedlutheran.us/feedback or a review on iTunes and let us know what you think. Thank you for listening to Armed Lutheran Radio, a member of the Self-Defense Radio Network.